Hello and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar. Transracial Parenting Part 1, Caring for Children in Care of Different Cultures and Race. I am your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I'm an author of several foster care books. I travel the nation and globe as a foster care speaker and trainer for child welfare programs. I'm most importantly an adoptive and foster parent myself. Indeed, if you were to look at a picture of my family, there it is right there, you would see that my family makes up many different colors, if you will. My wife, as some of you may know from some of my books, hails from the country of Australia. And my oldest daughter there, holding the young girl in the pink with the rips in her jeans there, she was born in Australia. And several of our children are dual citizens. So we bring into our home a different culture of Australia. In fact, our children's godparents are from Australia, Germany, and Switzerland. So we have in our house a makeup of different countries, different cultures, different colors. And I think we've made it into a beautiful, beautiful melting pot, so to speak. Our goal during this webinar is to increase awareness and understanding of caring for children in a transracial family. Participants during this webinar will increase your awareness of what transracial parenting is and how it impacts all of our lives, and finally gain an understanding of how to develop and implement strategies designed to aid these families as they create healthy, wonderful, loving families. Now, as we have seen here time and time again here at the Foster Care Institute, it is a time of tremendous anxiety. It is a time of tremendous stress when a child is placed into a foster care home. No matter the home, no matter how many opportunities a home might present, no matter how stable and secure and safe the home is, no matter how much unconditional love the family may give that child, it is still a time of great trauma. I believe, as a foster parent myself of 60 plus children who have come through my home, that being placed into a home, a foster care home, for a child is a time of trauma, a time of anxiety. The child, many times, is taken from his family, so many times late at night without any explanation whatsoever, taken from his mother, his father, sometimes his siblings, his stuffed animals, his toys, his pets, taken from his bedroom, his house, his home, taken from his neighborhood, his relatives, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, taken from his school, teachers, schoolmates, goes to church, taken from church, everything child knows, everything that is familiar to the child, and many times suddenly thrust into a strange home, a foster parent home that looks like mine or yours, strange family, again, foster family, mine, yours, and told, here is your new home, here is your new family, and the caseworker leaves, and the child is left with a number of questions. This is a time of tremendous uncertainty for the child. The child has asked me, when I've had a child placed in my home, questions like this. Why am I here? When do I go home? Will I ever see my mom and dad again? Who are you people? What are your rules? Does anybody love me? Again, it's a time of uncertainty. For some children, it may be a time of guilt. And as we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute on several of our other webinars, many times the child is unable to express themselves as well, as their emotions swirl over them and overwhelm them and they do not know how to process it. It is a time of tremendous anxiety for the child when placed into a foster care home. Yet, there is even more stress, the stress of being placed in and living with families of different cultures, the stress of being placed and living with families of different backgrounds and different race. Throughout this webinar, we're going to be looking at some of the words that foster parents have expressed to me when they have cared for children in a transracial family setting. One foster parent says this: both of my foster to adopt kids are mixed. We get looks every time we go in public here. I have had talks with my kids because they get stares and questions. My second grader got asked by kids at school, why is he the color he is? And he didn't really know how to answer. Let there be no mistake. For a young child, for a child in elementary school, and they're asked why the color he is, and they're in a foster and adoptive home, this is a time of anxiety. We hear the word transracial a lot in today's society. But what is a transracial family? Well, a transracial foster family is defined as a family that consists or is made up of children of one race or of one culture that is being raised and being cared for by a family of another race, a family of another color, of a family of another culture. These families, these families that are caring for these children of different races and cultures, they're considered by some as families of color. You know, I love culture. I had the wonderful opportunity to travel the world singing and dancing in a performing group. And that's where I met my wife. And we traveled all over Europe, Japan, all across the United States, Europe. And since then, my wife and I have been to Africa. We've been to Europe. We've been all over the globe. And I love meeting and learning and immersing myself in different cultures. And each time I come back to my home, I try to bring some of the cultures back into my own family so my own children can learn about those different cultures. But what is culture? Well, culture is the customary beliefs, the social forms, and the material traits of a racial, religious, or a social group. Culture is the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life shared by people in a place or time. Culture is the set of shared attitudes, a set of shared values, a set of shared goals, and the set of shared practices that characterize an organization or an institution. Finally, culture is the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. We got these four definitions of culture from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and I would like to thank the Merriam-Webster Dictionary for this great definition of culture. Now, let's break down the children of care in foster care. Now, this is according to the Child Welfare Information Gateway, published in 2018, a study the Gateway did. According to this study, children in foster care, 44% were so-called white. 23% were so-called Black or African American. 21% were Hispanic of another race, perhaps Puerto Rico or Spain or Mexico or South American. 10% were other races or multiracial. Only 1% were unknown or unable to be determined. According to another study, this is from the Children and Youth Services Review, published in 2015, 20% of youth in foster care state that they changed their ethnical identity while they were in care, while they were living with their foster family or living in a foster care environment. Again, 20% of youth, while in foster care, made the claim that they changed their ethnical identity. Now, this change, this ethnic identity change, is twice as high for those youth who were not in foster care in their life. As we've seen here at other webinars here at the Foster Care Institute, when a child is placed into a foster care environment or a foster care home, the dynamics of that family are sure to change. You know, one of the things I love about being a foster family is It's never monotonous. There's always something different. Every child is unique. Every child is special. Every child brings with them special and unique situations, outlooks, and challenges. Therefore, every time a child is placed into a family or a foster care family, the dynamics of that family will change again every single time. As a result, the family dynamic, so to speak, will change in some way. The oldest child may no longer be the oldest, or the youngest child may no longer be the youngest. Maybe there's one child in the home beforehand, and suddenly there are multiple children. There will be an adjustment every single time a child is placed into a foster care environment. And as a result, behavioral problems may occur. A foster parent said this: I have seen the effects on children. For example, wishing they were white and feeling like they had to compensate for their not being white by dressing up and looking like a model all the time. It is heartbreaking. When a child of a different race, a different culture, a different background is placed into a foster care home, it is a time of even greater anxiety. Let's look at some of the challenges a child might face when placed into a foster care family of a different background. A child in a transracial family may feel different than the other children in his home, whether they are children the biological family might have, whether they are other foster children, children in foster care, whether they are children who have been adopted, whatever it may be. The child in the transracial family may feel different than his other new siblings, so to speak. When he goes to a new school, he might feel different there as well, due to the what is the new racial makeup. Perhaps a child is of African American descent and he's now placed into a school that is predominantly white. Or an Hispanic child is placed into a foster care home and goes to a new school and it's predominantly an African American makeup school. So, as a result, this child may feel different. He may not feel included with his new family. He may not feel included with his new siblings from foster care. He may not feel included with some of the family traditions that he simply does not understand. He may feel excluded at school. He may feel excluded at church. He may feel excluded on the playground, on the sports team, visiting his foster parents' relatives. A child in a transracial foster care family may experience racial discrimination while living in a new home by his foster family or from the others, the family friends of the foster parents, the school, the teachers, his peers, the relatives of the foster family members, others in society. He may experience this racial discrimination while living in a foster home. And this only adds to the child's uncertainty. This only adds to his anxiety. This only builds the internal trauma that he is struggling with. A child in a transracial foster care family may experience a lack of connection to his original birth culture. Child may feel that she is pulled between two different worlds, so to speak. As a result, she might lose her birth culture. This happens often for children who are of Native American descent, Native American background, and they're placed into a foster care family that is not made up of Native American heritage. The child does not have access to his Native American heritage. Or perhaps it deals with a child who is of Hispanic descent and he's placed into a family that does not know how to speak Spanish. He may lose some of his birth culture. He feels pulled between these two worlds. In fact, let's look at what one Native American foster parent said. One foster parent told me this: I'm Native American, and my nephew, who is in my care, looks white. I constantly have people asking me why I'm watching him and where his mom is, like I stole a whole child or something. So not only does a child in foster care experiencing the anxiety, the foster parent or the kinship parent in this case, while caring for his nephew, is also experiencing anxiety and stress as well. Let's look at some more challenges a child may face. A child in a transracial foster care family may experience a lack of cultural and racial diversity. The family the child is living with, the community that they are living in while in the foster care system, may not actually represent their own in any way whatsoever. The community they live in may not represent in any shape or fashion their own cultural identity and have any sort of cultural diversity, and not allowing the child to access it as well. And then there are the stares. A child may feel stared at. In fact, people may stare at the child. When out with the foster family, others may stare at the child for a number of reasons. In truth, it's happened to me several times when I have been out with members of my own family, children that I've adopted. I've had people ask me many such questions. Are they your children? Why are they living with you? Do you think you can take care of these children better than their parents do? Simply because their color does not seem to match up with my own. So I've experienced that as well. And then there are some of those challenges that we cannot necessarily see that affect the child as well. Challenges a child may face in regards to food. The food they were used to, the cultural food they were used to, they no longer have access to. Perhaps the holidays they celebrated with their birth family, their new foster family is not celebrating. This might be Hanukkah versus Christmas. The music and dancing that they would often celebrate, perhaps in the Native American heritage, they're no longer celebrating or experiencing in their new foster home. The challenge of hair care that African American children experience, the new foster family may not know how to address this. And the other issues of clothing and maybe even the language barrier as well. And the language barrier, make no mistake, can be a tremendous challenge for all involved, for the child, for the birth parents, for the foster family, for the caseworker, for the court, for all involved. The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights states this: everyone, as a member of society, has the right to Social Security and is entitled to realization through national effort and international cooperation in accordance with the organization and resources of each state of the economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. A foster parent told me this: we had a biracial baby girl, and one of my husband's uncles wouldn't speak to me out in public because of it. As we said earlier, each child is different. Each child is unique, and those differences are something that we should celebrate. It makes families special. Now, what makes up culture? We talked a lot about culture. What makes up culture? Well, we start there in the top in the green circle. It starts with attitudes and beliefs. Languages make up part of culture as well as customs. There may be cultural rituals or different types of behavior within a culture. Of course, there is the faith or the religious part of a culture. Food can be a wonderful part of a culture, as well as the art and the drama and the music. All of these things make up what culture is. And these can be wonderfully rich, diverse aspects of different cultures. So, how do you go about becoming a positive, cultural, competent family? Well, you need to do just that. You need to be a cultural, competent family by creating understanding and awareness of other cultures, of other beliefs, of other traditions in your home. As I mentioned earlier, when my wife and I travel the globe and we come back to our home, we try to bring awareness of other cultures and beliefs and traditions back to our home, back to our family. So that when our children are visiting with their family members in Australia, or the godparents from Germany and Switzerland are coming to visit, my children already have an awareness of their cultural beliefs and traditions. And that it goes much beyond that, though. Because when they experience other children their age, other youth their age in school or a type of environment, and those children come from different backgrounds, have different beliefs, have different cultural traditions, my children are much more accepting of it and much more open and tolerant and able to embrace those cultures and understand them because my wife and I have very, very hard created an understanding and awareness of all cultures in our home. We try to celebrate all of them. Another way to become a cultural competent family is to help children develop strategies designed to combat racism wherever the family might encounter. And we will look at that later on in this training webinar. We as foster parents have a responsibility to be proactive in learning about and understanding the differences in the cultures and backgrounds that the children who are placed in our home bring to our family. We have the responsibility to learn about the unique differences that the children placed in our home and in our family, those differences based upon different backgrounds, different races, different cultures. We have that responsibility to learn about it and to create an atmosphere of acceptance for that and understanding for that. Remember, the children in your home are watching what you say and watching what you do, not only the children in foster care, but your own children. Your own children are learning how you understand or accept different cultural beliefs and backgrounds in your home. It is your responsibility to provide support, to provide care for children of all different backgrounds while you are caring for children in foster care in your home. So we go back to how to become a cultural competent family. Well, it includes this: to understand your own beliefs, to understand your own attitudes, maybe to understand your own preconceived notions about what cultures and different backgrounds and races believe, to understand your prior beliefs before these children in your home and any attitudes that might get in the way. It is your responsibility to learn about these cultures and different ways of life. And you can do this so many different ways. You can read books. You can listen to podcasts. You can watch videos. You can attend cultural events. One of the things that I like to do with all the children in my home is each year we attend a Native American powwow ceremony in a town near our home. We also try to go to some Hispanic cultural events in our area as well. If there is another cultural event from another country, my children are right there. I'm taking them to that because I want to expose them to these different cultural beliefs so my children can grow and learn from it. Not everybody is married to an Australian. Not everybody has godparents from Germany and Switzerland. I might be the only one. Who knows? But you surely know people in your own environment who are of different cultures and backgrounds. So get to know their beliefs. Talk to them about their own value systems. Talk to them about their own holidays that they might celebrate. The difference is how they believe in regards to cultural beliefs. Talk to them about that. Watch what they do. Listen to what they have to say. We've talked a lot about difference in cultures, cultural differences. What does that mean? Well, for many, it might mean race, it might mean gender, it might mean their history, or it might mean their politics. For some, cultural differences might mean their religion or their appearance. It might mean their social norms or their sexual orientation. One of the gifts I have experienced and I've grown from is when I've traveled the globe, I have seen the differences in value systems that other cultures and people of different backgrounds experience. There can be so much to learn from as we care for children and family when we learn about the differences in their values. We must admit, as transracial families, that prejudice does exist in our society. We need to admit that prejudice and racism exist, and we need to talk about the history of racism and discrimination to the children in our home. For my home, it's an ongoing, consistent discussion. And we do it in a way that is age appropriate for the child, as well as appropriate for their maturity level. We discuss why people of child's background may have been mistreated for whatever reason that might be. For the children who have come to our home of Jewish heritage, we talk a lot about how the people of Jewish heritage have been the most mistreated group of people in society. And we talk about why that might be. We talked about it with people of African American heritage. We talked about it with people of Hispanic heritage. Again, it's an ongoing discussion with the children in our home to help prepare them for when they go out in society. So when you have a child in your home, placed in your home, that has a different type of cultural background or has a different race than your own, prepare to talk about what racism or discrimination might look like. Prepare to talk about why their heritage, their cultural their background, the people of their beliefs may have been mistreated in some fashion. You need to prepare yourself as a foster parent of a child of a different color that you may experience racism from others. You may experience racism from others. You, as the foster parent, you might experience it in the workplace. You might experience it from church. You might experience from your friends. In fact, we heard earlier from one young foster parent who said she experienced it from her husband's uncle. You might experience it in your own family. I have as well. You need to prepare yourself that your child may experience that racism as well. And you need to be ready for words of comfort, words of support, words of encouragement. You need to be the child's number one advocate when it comes to racism, when it comes to discrimination. Now, the child in your home may experience racism and racial comments while in public and while at school. So, how do you prepare the child for this? Well, to begin with, you begin the discussion early on, as I said, in an age appropriate fashion. It should be a discussion that is ongoing. You try to coach the child, how the child might respond, and how the child might react. Not to react out of anger and frustration and lash out, but coach the child how to respond and react in a calm fashion. Remember, the child is looking for you to learn. Discuss differences. Talk about the differences in your family between you, your spouse or partner, and the other children in your home. What do those differences look like? Acknowledge what they are and talk about them. And let the children know in your home that it's okay to talk about these differences. In fact, these should be open discussions. You should always, in any discussion, answer the questions honestly and as honestly as you possibly can and openly. As I noted earlier, I love to celebrate the wonderful diversity that is in my family. I jokingly tell people that all of my children are Australian American, and they ask me, "What do you mean by that?" I tell them, well, my wife is from Australia and my children hail from there. We try to include our Australian heritage. We try to include the German and the Swiss. We try to include the African descent. In fact, my wife and I visited the continent of Africa recently. We brought some of those cultural beliefs into our home. We always try to bring back some of the language of each country we visit. Try to include all the cultural differences in your home that might include different holidays, different types of music. If you visit our home, you're going to see an old-fashioned record player with records and discs from all different countries and different cultures. Try to include different musical, cultural differences in your home, within your family, and to celebrate all the wonderful differences that the cultures make up. Expose the children in your home to music and movies and books and toys that are similar to that child's cultural background. Help a child in your home. Help a child that's placed in your home develop a healthy, positive racial identity. Remember how we looked at earlier? It said 20% of youth in foster care change their ethnic identity, twice the rate of children not in foster care. It's up to you to help your child, the child placed in your home, to develop a healthy, positive racial identity. And you can do that by discussing how people of all backgrounds, people of all different cultures, have equal worth, have the same rights. As a foster parent of a transracial family, it is imperative, it is essential, it is vital for everyone living in your home that you stand up to racism and you have zero tolerance for it in your lives and the lives of the children that you are associated with. Zero tolerance policy. That should go without saying. As a foster parent, as a parent, as a member of society, it is up to you to stand up to racism and have zero tolerance. Not only for yourself, but for the lives of the young children that are looking up for you, watching you, learning from you, and being protected and kept safe from you. One of the ways you can create a cultural competent family or be a strong transracial family is to interact with people of your child's race, to form friendships with people of all cultures, of all backgrounds, and to value diversity in all. Again, try to form friendships with people of all cultures and to interact with people of your child's background, your child's culture, your child's race. If possible, find mentors or role models for the child and for yourself. If you want to learn how to care for an African American child's hair, find someone to teach you. Find a role model. If you want to find out more about a Native American child's heritage, find a role model for yourself. Find a Native American who can be your mentor. If you're struggling with communicating with the Hispanic child placed in your home, find somebody who will help you to be your role model. I often say that children mirror what they see. It's so very true. So try to find and provide mirrors for your child that reflect his background, his race, his culture. If possible, try to find a doctor that might mirror the child in your home's race or culture. Try to find teachers or coaches or whatever it might be. Try to find someone that looks like your child so so they can have a positive mirror, if you will. We've said this before. Talk about the differences of racism in your home on a general and consistent manner, and go places where the child is surrounded by people of the same culture and the same background. Try to find events in your area that have people that have the same background, the same skin color, the same cultural beliefs, the same type of race, whatever it may be. Try to go to places where the child in your home is surrounded by people just like him. So they can see, hey, I'm okay. Hey, there are others like me. Hey, I didn't know this was like this. One thing foster parents struggle with often is having a child of a different color, a different culture, a different race brought into their home, and they don't know how to care for them. This is a particular case when it comes to African American children and hair products. So have hair and skin products available for the child in your home and learn how to use them. If you are a foster parent and you have a child come into your home that is African American descent, and you are not African American, and you are having trouble caring for the child's hair, watch videos, read books, go online and do your research. Ask somebody to help you. It's important to recognize this. In the African American society, or in black culture, so to speak, hair is the heart of socialization. Now, this might not be possible, but if it is, consider living in a multiracial community and environment. This may help the child when it comes to issues at school. If you're living in a predominantly white area, you might consider moving. That's a very big ask, and I appreciate that and understand that. So if that's not possible, or not something you're going to consider, perhaps you could consider helping the child enroll in a school that fits more with his background, that fits more with his cultural or racial identity. Support groups are so important. There are support groups for almost anything these days. For you as a transracial family, it's important for you to find other transracial families. So you can form a support group of sorts. So you can ask those questions about hair care or music. You can ask those questions about cultural holidays and beliefs. You can ask those questions about racism and discrimination. Find a transracial family support group of some kind. Many times it is your local foster parent support group, or it is your local adoptive parent support group in your area. This is a great source for you to learn from, to ask questions, to listen to their stories, and to ask for help from people who have experienced the same type of challenges that you are facing as a transracial family. You may wish to encourage a child if he wants to join a local sporting team, or attend summer camps, or join school band, or other playgroups, allowing the child to surround himself with others of his own kind or his own background, his own race, his own cultural identity. There is a saying that patience is a virtue. As a transracial foster parent, you need to remain patient and calm with those who may stare at you or stare at the child, who might make comments under their breath or might be downright rude to you or the child. Your patience is an example to the child on how to act, how to behave towards others when they experience those comments, when they have people stare at them, when they have people be rude to them and you're not around. You're teaching them how to respond. Your patience is an example of how they should react when you're not there. And find those teachable moments with those that you know who may not understand. Your friends, your family members, your workmates, your people at your church, those people who don't really appreciate or understand what it's like to be a transracial family. Find those teachable moments where you can answer their questions. Because they have questions. They have questions. Look for those questions. Look for those teachable moments. Be patient with them and help them to understand what it's like for you, and more importantly, what it's like for the child and how we can all help the child. Finally, you might wish to seek out professional therapists and family counselors when necessary, or even when you desire it. As I stated here several times at the Foster Care Institute, I am not a mechanic. I'm not an AC guy. I'm not a dentist. I'm going to go to a professional. To help me with those things. So when you are facing challenges as a transracial family, it's okay. In fact, it is encouraged to seek out a professional family counselor, professional therapist to help you, to help your family during these challenging times, during those difficult, stressful moments. When we include the child's differences in cultures and beliefs in our family, when we speak out against racism and have a zero tolerance, when we learn about hair care and skin care, when we have positive role models and mirrors for the children in our home, when we celebrate the differences in cultural beliefs and racial backgrounds, when we do all this as a transracial family, not only do you grow as a person and learn as a person, your own family members will grow and learn. And this is how you create a healthy family unit. I remind you that this is part 1 of Transracial Foster Family. We will have part 2 of Transracial Parenting here at the Foster Care Institute. For much more, follow me on Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo, Foster Care Expert, at Twitter, Dr. John DeGarmo, or email me with questions about this webinar or anything else you may be struggling with at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. A great book for you is the Foster Care Survival Guide, the essential guide for today's foster parents. It is a book that I asked foster parents over the course of several years, what do you need to learn about? What are you struggling with? As a result, this is that book. And we have several other books at the Foster Care Institute. There's one perfect for you at this very moment. I want to thank you for caring for children in need. I want to thank you for caring for children in crisis. I want to thank you for opening up your home and your heart to children of all backgrounds, of all beliefs, of all cultures, of all skin colors, of all races. You are making a difference in the life of a child, and you are teaching others what it is like to be culturally competent. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.